Well, as we mark this day, that's International Women's Day, it's also important to look back so that we may consider how far we've come. But it's equally important to acknowledge what we have, and that we have a long way, still to go in terms of gender equity and our fight against gender-based violence. The President recently announced the Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Response Fund. Wits University Chancellor and businesswoman Dr. Judy Dlamini is the fund's chair. She's joining me now this lunchtime via Skype to discuss the fund and as well as issues about gender equity. Dr. Dlamini, good afternoon and thank you very much for your time on lunchtime here on ENCA. Happy International Women's Day to you. Regarding the fund, just to having mentioned it, that fund is still very much alive. How is it going? Very briefly.
Good afternoon, Dan. Thanks for having me, and good afternoon to the viewers. I didn't get the fund that you mentioned. I'm part of quite a few funds. Which one? I missed that.
It's the Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Response Fund.
Yes. You know, we are very grateful for the private sector and also for the presidency for initiating this Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Response Fund. It's led by IWFSA, and we've received quite a lot of pledges from the private sector and also pro bono services from the private sector. What are we trying to achieve? We're trying to implement the NSP 6 pillars to eradicate gender-based violence and femicide.
Okay, so is the fund being well supported? Can you give us a number?
It's early days. We came into being, we were incorporated on the 28th of January. There was a launch by the President on the 4th of February. Since then, we've received about 128 million rand in pledges that still have to turn into cash. We've also received pro bono services from different companies, ABSA being one of them, and I'm reminded of the loss that we've just had of Peter Matlare, may his soul rest in peace. ABSA is assisting us with project management of the fund. They are also assisting us with the banking. ENS has put together the policies, ensuring that there is corporate governance and also a framework that ensures there is accountability and transparency. Alexander Forbes are assisting with asset management, and PwC is assisting with accounting, and Deloitte with external auditing. So we have all these organizations that are offering a service pro bono, but also the donations that have come from individuals, but also from organizations. But as you can imagine, then the need is big. So we are looking for more donations from the public sector and just individuals in society.
Yeah, and I guess what's critical is turning that 128 million rand in pledges into cash, and hopefully the asset managers won't charge you any fees as well when they manage the fund. Okay, thanks for responding to my question around the fund. We appreciate it. Sadly, though, when we talk about issues around women's empowerment, when we talk about equality for women, we still touch on this pandemic of gender-based violence, sadly still our reality. Today is International Women's Day, and worldwide, women like yourselves who are leaders are being honored, and you are commemorating the progress that's been made. So how has life changed in your view for women in today's world compared to when, for instance, you were younger?
A lot has changed, Dan. There's a story I like telling because we were raised being told stories, and stories send a message. I want to talk about a lady called Christine Ladd, born in Connecticut in the US in the middle of the 1800s. She wanted to be a physicist. She wanted to do physics, but she was denied access because guess what? Women were not allowed to enter physics laboratories. So she took up mathematics. That just shows you that way back then, we talk about STEM and women not wanting to take it up, and that's not true. A few years later, she wanted to do a PhD at Johns Hopkins University. They didn't allow her because she was a woman. A certain Professor Sylvester motivated for her, she got in, she qualified, but guess what? They didn't allow her to graduate for 44 years. Why am I telling this story? It tells you about how we underestimate the bottleneck of men's insecurity blocking women from achieving what they are capable of and what they want to achieve. But it also tells us that there are those men who go out of their way to motivate, to sponsor women. They're just not enough. So the message, therefore, today is that I challenge those men that see the light to galvanize support from other men, because women are ready. They've been ready for a very long time. The stereotypes that we tell young girls that they are not capable is what is putting us backwards. So my message is that please, let us collectively change the stereotype.
Is the world closer to that? Are we moving in the right direction towards gender equity? Are we making the right strides?
We are, but they could be better if we were deliberately, men and women, especially men, making sure that we sponsor women, making sure that we call out those who actually perpetrate microaggressions in the boardrooms, microaggressions in academia that silence women and make women feel less. So I do believe we can do more. And if we do that, we will achieve gender equity in our lifetime and eradicate GBVF.
And you say call out those who are the aggressors. Other actions, very briefly, that will be key for us to really make sure that the progress we're making is solid and sustainable?
There are quite a few. They almost all revolve around leadership, and leadership tends to be men. Empowering women economically. You know, someone said when we say we have a quota of 30% of goods or services have to come from women-owned organizations. That is empowerment of 70% for men. So we want equity, one. Two, intersectionality of the different social identities of people is key, because if you only look at gender, guess what? Black men benefit. If you only look at race, white women benefit, and Black women remain behind. So all I'm asking is that let's look at a holistic approach when we tackle social inequality and when we tackle inequality in general.
Thank you very much. Wits University Chancellor, businesswoman, and Chair of the Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Response Fund, Dr. Judy Dlamini.